So actually, I'm going to give you four, and this is the third one, and then the last, there'll be one more after this one. This one I wanted to share with you because this one actually sees geometry a lot and really is dealing with abstraction from an interesting perspective from the original drawing. So, or the original photograph. So the original photograph is this. It's a garden, a very formal garden with a large sculpture in the foreground, middle ground, background, and very interesting tall trees. So it has a lot of geometry. It has some interesting negative space up at the top and some really great stuff all the way in the foreground. So the way that this artist and designer saw it was really kind of cool. So this again is the first one, which is a contour drawing. Again, you're isolating the essential elements and drawing them in outline form. Again, you can try to do the whole drawing by keeping your marker on the paper and not leaving it, or you can do one shape at a time. But it's not extensive, it's not super detailed, but it does actually look pretty much like the original photograph. It's not too far abstract. But take a look at this drawing with the dots. This is isolating dots, or points, I should say, isolating points. Really interesting. I love how this actually comes in as a directional shape that brings you into the rest of the drawing. And this negative space up here is nicely balanced with what's happening here. Really nice isolation of points. Next is isolation of line. Similar thinking here as the points, but just different use of elements. So you have diagonal lines bringing you in, some vertical lines and horizontal lines. Very simple drawing, but still effective. Now we have some, I don't think they labeled this either. This is going to be geometric line. And so she didn't layer her book in consecutive order. So this is geometric line. So again, use your ruler. You want to make sure you use your ruler. But all of the lines are pretty straight, or at least trying to be straight with the ruler. And any kind of connections feel very geometric. But it has this really interesting metric rhythm going across. And these tall vertical lines really help to kind of build a relationship from the bottom to the top of the composition. This is going to be, just check ahead so I can make sure I know what I'm talking about. This is going to be geometric plane. And as you can see, again, she's created all these different surfaces. Whenever you do geometric plane, you want to do surfaces. Look at the photograph and find surfaces that you can draw. And then in geometric plane, make sure you only draw them with straight edges in your ruler to make them geometric looking shapes. This looks like it is isolating line, not geometric line, but just isolating line. So it's different than the contour drawing. This is the contour drawing, which looks very familiar to the original photograph. This one, less so. Kind of weirdly, the statue starts to become integrated into this shape here. This to me looks a little bit like isolating points. And the first one I showed you is probably a geometric point, right? So the geometry is in these kind of geometric shapes, either a line, this looks like a diagonal plane. So these are more geometric. So the points make up geometric shapes. And this one is much more free flowing. So this is just isolating point. It's beautiful how this kind of flows into negative and positive space. Again, the more you put together, the darker it gets. I think this one is her number 9, which is combining points, lines, geometric shape. Not the best. It kind of got a little smudgy here. Not the best. But this one, which is texture, is really interesting. Let's take a look at this one, right? So she's using directional line here and Xing. So it kind of looks prickly. This looks softer or it has a different feeling. It might be like bark of some kind, and then also the rhythm of how the mark making is done. So texture is made from a variety of techniques. Okay, again, stapled. Put 3 in here and tape on the top. So now part 2 on this one. So again, this is a great photograph to begin with. And if you were to close your right eye, you probably would say, geez, I want these statues and maybe I'll do the house. But it is totally up to you how you interpret a drawing. So again, what drawing would she pick? It would be really hard to pick something like that. But if you had a hole puncher, you might be able to do that. Something like this also, you'd have to be really skillful with your X-Acto knife. She started with this, but then eventually, it's kind of interesting. I think she was more inspired by something like this. Okay, so let's take a look at what she did. So she has a very large shape here, which is the building. And then she cut out a couple of windows. One window actually fell out. That's okay. And then an interesting door. And then she has her 3 figures. First woman, second woman, third woman. Now, if you notice, they're reversed. So it doesn't have to be an exact replica of the actual drawing. It just needs to be inspired by the drawing. So as you're thinking of how you might sculpt your paper, again, it doesn't have to be an exact replica of a drawing. It can be inspired. So we have the 3 figures reversed and they're coming up at you. The difference in scale is beautiful. We have a larger element in the background, little small cutouts of that large element, make it diverse. And then we have a really interesting kind of back and forth between private and public space. So again, when you photograph your final work, think about the shadows too, and try to have fun.